Welcome friends to another r/prorevenge video. So I was looking at my statistics and I found out that one of you guys is not subscribed. So if you don't want to be that one guy, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That said, our first story of the day is by Kui Soo Kim, Petty Vengeance on a Terrible Parking Job. This isn't really a grand story, but it did spark a bit of petty joy for me, my spouse, and one other fella. So a bit back, the spouse and I decide to hit up the local Chick-fil-A. We get there right around the lunch hour, so the place was pretty packed, and there was very little in the way of parking spaces. As I take my first lap around the parking lot, I see what I thought was an opening and began to make my approach to the spot. Of course, as soon as I got to the spot, I saw that some clown had parked his pickup truck about halfway into the spot and half into the neighboring spot. Now, normally I would have just mumbled some profanity to myself and moved on for another spot, but I noticed that someone had seen this yahoo's excellent parking job and had decided to get as close to his passenger side door as they could. I turned to my spouse, who knew exactly what I had planned with my little car, and they hopped out, allowing me to park up as close as I could with the space left to their driver's side door, albeit still within my lines. We giggled a bit and then went in to order our food. When we went to get a seat, we made sure to sit within view of the waywardly parked truck and kept watch while eating some delicious chicken sandwiches. A few minutes later, the hapless fella came waddling his large self out to his truck, only to find that he was essentially boxed in by himself and the other vehicle. We watched as he tried in vain to open both the side doors, which even a thin person would not fit by, especially not his rotund self. Finally, he enacted his final act of desperation to get back into his truck. He crawled his oversized self through the back window. We watched as this man struggled to squeeze in through the bed of his truck, looking something akin to that scene in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, where he was squeezing himself through the small opening in his mechanical rhino. At that moment, as if by some steering of fate, I made eye contact with another gentleman watching the same scene. He was giggling to himself, and at that moment I knew he was the driver of the other car on the other side. With a big smile on his face, he raised his styrofoam cup of sugar water in my direction, to which I raised my overly sweetened tea in his, all in celebration of victory over terrible parking jobs. We've all seen some pretty terrible parking jobs over the years. It's kind of inevitable, you go out in public, somebody's going to do it somewhere. But if you were given a golden opportunity to box them in like this, or would you ignore it, move on, try to find a different spot? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Additional Argument 6. Don't pay me overtime, then it'll cost you more. So this is a long story, but about 20 years ago, I was working at a wire mill making copper wire. I was one of 3 people that could run the machine I was on. At the time, I didn't make much money, so I had a habit of working double shifts on Friday and Saturday night, so instead of my normal 3 to 11 shift, I'd be there till 7 a.m. So I figured that since Saturday turned into Sunday, which was double time, they owed me double time from 11 to 7, and they paid me like that for about 4 months. Then one day, my supervisor decided that it was a continuation of my shift. They didn't need to pay me the double time. At that time, the difference between double time and time and a half was only $40. So I said, okay, fine, and just smiled and walked away. Come Saturday, they had a specialty wire that had to be out Sunday morning so it could be shipped on time. Happened every Saturday. I simply said, no, I'm not working. When they asked why, I told them that they owed me $40, and I'm not letting them do it to me again. Then I asked the already pissed off supervisor if the $30,000, yep, that's right, that wasn't going out the door that night was worth the $40 that they owed me. Come Monday morning, the customer that didn't get his wire because of me was on the phone with the owner chewing him out and threatening to pull his $7 million contract. The now very pissed off owner calls a meeting with all of the supervisors wanting an answer. My boss decides to cover his butt and throw me under the bus. However, the owner was a smart guy and figured out what was going on. He looked at my boss and said, so I'm about to lose $7 million over $40 to a person that volunteers to work doubles to get material out? He told them all that that was never to happen again and had a private meeting with my boss, wanting him to explain why he should keep his job. So long story short, they paid me my back pay and never argued about it again. I mean, to be fair, they kinda shot themselves in the foot by only having one dude that can really do anything for them. Honestly, they're lucky OP didn't say, well, it's been a while, now I want interest. Or OP's like, you know what, I also want a $200 bonus. What are you gonna do, fire them? Do it yourself? Obviously OP wouldn't be like that, but it's kind of that jeopardizing situation. This next story is by Sifcad. When my friend doesn't pay back the amount I loaned them, I go petty, but in Indian style. For context, me and my friend, the characters of the story, were both undergraduate students at the time, and our college fee and expenses were paid by our parents, as is the common practice in India. We were living in a different city from our homes where our college was, but also hailed from different places in our native state. So my friend, who's kinda close to me, asked me to loan him around 4,000 Indian rupees, which is around $60 USD. It might seem little to you, but that's enough for me for half of the month's expense. My monthly expenses came around $110 USD, or 8,000 rupees, including my share for the rented house I shared with 5 other friends, utilities, and food. So this guy was in dire need of 4,000 rupees, and his parents wouldn't be paying him his monthly allowance until the start of next month. He asked me to loan him. I agreed, because I had a few bucks to spare because I did some online sales and had a bit of a personal savings, which I used for my personal stuff, so it wouldn't have been a problem. My friend had told me he would pay me after 1 month, and I agreed. The month end rolls by, and I knew he got paid by his parents. But I didn't ask him his money back then because I respected his word and waited for the 1 month period that he asked me to come by. A week later, the 1 month period on which he agreed to pay back the loan rolls by, and I text him, when is he coming to pay me? He saw my message, blue ticks on WhatsApp, but ignores it. Messaged him again in the evening and the next morning, but only double ticks and no blue ticks. Received but not opened the messages. Same story for 2 weeks, and now he's ignoring me on campus as well. By then, I was seriously getting frustrated, and had he asked me nicely to extend the period and gave me a valid reason, I would have definitely have been okay. But no, he just ignored me without any replies whatsoever. Man, do I freaking hate this ignoring without a reason stuff. So here's the petty revenge part. I screenshot his messages of him asking me for money and agreeing to pay up after exactly 1 month. Also of my messages which he ignored. Then wrote a message and sent all the 3 to someone. The message was around these lines. Your son owes me 4,000 rupees and I'm in need of that money back. But he isn't replying to any of my messages and is still actively ignoring me on campus as well. Please do pay me back if you can, or ask him to pay me back, or else I will surely be circulating these screenshots in our common social circle. Yeah, the message was to his parents. We Indians consider honor to be a very high value, and if I send those screenshots to our social circle, his parents knew that the guy would be a laughingstock in our area for a good amount of time, and that can affect his studies as well, because students usually distance themselves from college when they have become the college laughingstock, right? His parents sent him the cash after confronting him through call, and I got my money back within the next day. I later heard that the guy was properly talked to by his parents, and a few of our common friends knew of this issue. Thus, he lost many of those friends as well. News spread that he tried to rip me off among our friends, and most of them distanced from him as well. The real pettiness here is, in India, you doing something bad or dishonorable and your parents finding out is the worst type of insult, because you lose your parents' trust, and that's the one thing we Indians don't want to lose. And that is exactly why I sent the screenshots to his parents and not directly to our friends. I just have to say that OP took every course of action they could. They tried to reach out over text, they tried to find them on campus. It wasn't even a loan at that point, they stole 4,000 rupees basically. So, as dishonorable and embarrassing and damaging as it might be, gotta go hit up their mom and dad and be like, look at the ridiculous stuff your son's doing. Our next story is by Fast Back Down. Don't use the fire door. My office has got a front door which faces onto the boss's car park and a door at the back, which is onto the normal car park. It's a big building. It takes 10 minutes to walk around the outside to get to the front door, which is a pain in the butt if it's raining, or if you got your arms full, etc. The door at the back is the kind with a push bar on it that you can only open from the inside. Nowhere on the door does it say that it's a fire door, and as far as I'm aware, nowhere does it say that you can't leave a fire door open. We work on a secure site, so controlling access to the building isn't an issue. Therefore, 80% of the people I work with, who park in the back car park, leave the door open so that other people can get in that way. One of the department heads, who isn't that senior but is senior enough to park in the front car park, has got this real bee in his bonnet about the back door being open because it's the fire door. It isn't. I'm talking 3 internal memos a week, printed signs stuck up all over the place, every AOB at the end of a meeting he brings it up. Bloody annoying. He's the only person who cares about it. Last week, they were resurfacing the front car park. All managers parked in the back and used the back door. On Wednesday, the weather was horrendous. Howling wind, torrential rain, etc. Walking past the back door, which was open, I saw fire door manager pull up in the back car park. Clearly, he doesn't want the back door open, so I shut it. Roll on 15 minutes and he's in his office looking like he swam to work trying to get IT support to come and fix his laptop because he fell over in a puddle and dropped his bag with the laptop in it. Revenge is sweet. The only way that could have been possibly sweeter is if at that point they relinquished it. They realized, okay, you know what, that back door is a great thing. Keep it open, I'm sorry, my poor laptop. And our final story of the day is by Hebrew Shmebrew. I mean, you could have paid my invoice. It's been long enough. X is dead. I'm going to assume no one sees this. Years ago, my side gig was freelancing. I built web applications back before they were awesome, or maybe when they were still awesome. It was PHP and other garbage wired up to PayPal shopping carts, but heck, people were happy. Enter X. Mr. X was my best friend's father's right-hand man, a fine God-fearing Christian, or so he told me. The company wanted a website so that customers could order things, pay with a credit card, all the things. Well, best friend or not, I still didn't trust X, and we had a contract, nice, signed, and legal. The contract was simple. I own the software until fully paid, provide support for 30 days after launch, get paid on milestones. I own 100% of the IP, the warranty is limited to the total value of the contract. Important. Standard. I received the 25% owed on signing. Awesome. Milestone 1 is achieved, and the check arrives 1 week late, but I think nothing of it. Milestone 2 is achieved, and the check arrives at the end of the month owing, 2 weeks late, though only thanks to some hemming and hawing. We go live, but something just didn't feel right. But whatever, bugs come in, I work on them, and while I still haven't received that final payment, I was to receive it before the support period. Well, I made a small change. On day 31, I changed the PayPal ID from the production ID back to my testing ID. Money stops rolling into the company. Orders come in, they ship them out, but money doesn't land. X calls in a panic several times, and I firmly and politely mention, I'd love to help you, but you haven't paid me. Our contract has been concluded. Yes, they eventually find the intentional bug and go live. Good times. Then I get sued. My lawyer, their lawyer, court, well, pre-court, but good times. X's lawyer presents willful sabotage or something like that. And my lawyer simply argues that X was in breach of contract. Given that X didn't complete the contract, he didn't own the code, and I was free to do with it as I may. Turns out the judge agreed with my lawyer. Sure, he said what I did wasn't very nice, but it was perfectly legal. But I'm not a completely evil person. I kept only the amount owed to me on the contract and the amount required to pay my lawyer. Thing is, X was a God-fearing Christian, but he really had an issue with the gays, as he put it. No, the rest I donated to Pride and funded a float so that there could be a big sign that says, God loves you, so does X last name. That's a beautiful thing that OP did with the rest of the money. My only hope is that this float and/or sign was in a location that X could actually see. So they see this Pride float going on and there's a big old sign that says, God loves you, so does X, last name here. But maybe that would have caused some trouble, so I don't know. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.